Hey, happy Friday. I'm in China filming some videos here, but the tech news don't stop. This week Nintendo officially unveiled the Switch 2, LG officially unveiled their next generation OLED tech, and DJI potentially unleashed mayhem on the US. Welcome to the Friday Checkout. This video was brought to you by my sponsor, Saily. And that's quite literal this week, because this week I'm actually uploading this video via a Saily connection. Okay, for my first story of the week, Nintendo officially showed off the Switch 2, and there are loads of interesting details. We got a look at the new Joy-Cons that sort of snap on, maybe using magnets rather than the sliding rail design of the predecessor. They have enlarged shoulder buttons, some strap attachments just pop on, and there's a new unspecified button under the home button on the right Joy-Con. Also, a rumor about the Joy-Cons acting as a mouse appears to be actually true too. There's a new USB-C port added to the top of the console near the headphone jack, which thankfully Nintendo has not removed. Of course, there's also a new full-width kickstand on the back, and the dock has a slightly new look. The only game shown off so far is what appears to be a new version of Mario Kart, and while the console itself will be backwards compatible with Nintendo Switch games, the video cautions that, quote, certain games may not be compatible. This is more like an extended teaser rather than a full proper announcement, so some of the details, like for example the chip or the release date, will come out later, although the leakers are saying it will probably happen in April. And while you wait for the Switch, Nintendo also released the Super Mario Bros. Soundtracks on vinyl in Japan, with a 3 LP set coming on April for around $74 with international shipping too. Kinda fun. Okay, for my second story of the week, LG announced what it calls its 4th generation OLED, which by all accounts seems like a massive upgrade. They basically added one more OLED panel to their backlight stack, so we now have 4 instead of 3 layers, and instead of just having blue and yellow, we now get proper RGB panels. Having actual RGB colors in the background allows them to get more accurate colors in the final panel, resulting in excellent color coverage at 99.5% DCI-P3, while we also get a brightness boost of 33% and an efficiency increase of 20%, presumably from having a 4th panel. Now, I'm just guessing here, but typically adding one more panel of course increases the overall brightness, but then of course also each individual panel can run a little bit less bright itself, and that then creates the efficiency advantage. LG claims a pretty crazy 4000 nits of peak brightness, which sounds fantastic, though we should remember that this figure only refers to 3% of the panel being lit. When the full screen is lit, it's not going to be that bright, but it's still a massive brightness boost over the last generation. Add to this that they claim that the TV can also block, quote, 99% of internal and external light refractions, and we should have a pretty dope picture, though sadly, unlike Samsung's new matte panels, these are still reflective. The panels are coming to LG's own G5 TVs soon, while brands like Panasonic are going to receive them too. Okay, and for my third story of the week, DJI has decided to give a middle finger as a response to new US laws. Specifically, DJI previously geofenced and completely stopped drone operators in the US from flying over runways, power plants, public emergencies like wildfires, and even the White House via strict self-made no-fly zones, but the company this week suddenly dropped these rules, potentially creating chaos in the future. They seem to be doing this as a response to the orders that blocked some of their drone imports and called the company a, quote, Chinese military company, which may see them auto-bend in future years. So instead of hard geofences, they switched to just showing warnings that are pretty easy to ignore. That is a pretty drastic change, and it might create a lot of troubles in the future, either from people intentionally doing stupid things or just accidentally buying a new drone and flying it somewhere where they shouldn't. The FFA is putting on a brave face, saying that, quote, the FFA does not require geofencing from drone manufacturers, to The Verge, but I bet they're not exactly happy. DJI drones will still publicly broadcast their remote ID, delivering the location of a drone and their operator during flights, but that's pretty different. DJI wrote a blog post saying that this had nothing to do with politics, which of course you can choose to believe if you want. Clearly the trade wars are going to cause more and more troubles like this in the future, which might eventually get pretty uncomfortable. And moving on to our release monitor, we ironically start with DJI again, who has released a $439 Flip, which is a fully foldable camera drone capable of high quality footage like 4K at 60 FPS, while also lasting a longer 31 minutes on battery. It only weighs 249 grams, so it can be flown without permissions in most places, and I bundled one in the DJI store here in Shenzhen. Very nice. Meanwhile, I also tried Insta360's new $160 Flow 2 Pro gimbal here, since I'm filming on an iPhone in China. It super nicely integrates with Apple's dock kit, so it's automatically available in pretty much all iOS apps, and it has a ton of new features like free tilt mode or the ability to track multiple people at once. Moving on to things I did not try, Leica has a new $5,300 hybrid camera called the SL3S. It should be good for both stills and video, with 6K ProRes video and faster autofocus. And also this week, Motorola refreshed its Moto G and Moto G Power phones with slightly larger displays for $200 and $300 respectively. That's not bad on a budget, I guess. And last in our release monitor is that Unitree Robotics in China has just announced an upgrade to its humanoid focused on agility, and is now apparently the smoothest walking humanoid in the world. That's a claim that they're making, and it looks simultaneously impressive and also really creepy. As usual, all the links for the release monitor are down in the description, and we start our brief by reminding you of Samsung's upcoming Galaxy Unpacked event. It's gonna be on the 22nd of January, and we expect the big deal to be the Galaxy S25 series, which by now has been pretty much completely leaked via real-looking marketing images that come via EvLeaks, for example, or also renders of the Galaxy S25 Slim from OnLeaks. Together with the new Samsung mixed reality headset, there should be plenty to look forward to. And next, by the time you're watching this, TikTok might or might not be banned in the US, as now confusingly both Biden and Trump are working to at least postpone the ban. Anyway, weirdly enough, Americans now seem to be flocking to the Chinese app Xiaohongshu, or Little Red Book, as a result, basically out of protest, creating a wave of people that calls itself the TikTok refugees. All the Chinese people I talked to here in Shenzhen found it both extremely hilarious and also extremely confusing, because now all of their timelines are messed up. Also, the Fediverse version of TikTok recently launched under the name Loops, so if you want to get brain rot from short videos but you want to do so without ads and corporate overlords, you can now do that there too. Next, multiple executives at Sonos were fired, including the CEO, CCO, and also the CPO. This came quite a few months after Sonos' disastrous app launch that reportedly cost the company $200 million and also saw 100 employees laid off. Ouch. Meanwhile, next in the brief, the FTC has sued John Deere over, quote, unfair corporate tactics and high repair costs. John Deere is one of the biggest opponents of the right to repair movement, so maybe that's good news, but as always, the next administration is just around the corner who might just cancel all of this. And moving on to AI news, Google announced it is partnering with the Associated Press to bring real-time information from the news agency to its Gemini app. Giving AI reliable knowledge of real-time news makes a pretty big difference, I guess, but there are no details of how much Google actually paid. And talking of Google, they bundled Gemini, quote, for free into their Google Workplace plan, except they also added a $2 monthly price bump, while Microsoft did the same with Copilot and Office with a $3 price bump. At least Microsoft will let you opt out, and as for Google, small business customers for now are exempt, but I bet that's not for too long. You will pay for AI whether you want to or not, because the CEOs have to justify all the billions that they've just spent. And in happier news, the kids are alright, because a teenager just managed to get Doom working in a PDF somehow, using just the JavaScript support of PDFs. Perfect. And next, the FBI hacked thousands of computers via a warrant, saying that they did so to remove Chinese malware called PlugX from devices in the US, which people apparently got via plugging in compromised USB devices. That's a pretty good reminder to just avoid plugging USB things into your computers unless you have to, but also the FBI hacking devices to unhack them is very 2025 news. Alright, and to finish up, a quick update. There's not going to be an episode next week because I'll be diving in Malaysia, but then the week after that I'll already be in Bangkok, where I will be uploading a regular episode from. And for this whole trip through China, Malaysia, and Thailand, I'm using eSIMs from the best timed sponsor possible, called Saily. Saily is a ridiculously convenient service where you can simply download an app, pay a few bucks, and have an affordable eSIM with mobile internet in over 180 countries. There's not even a need to re-download the app as you switch countries either. Plans in Thailand, for example, start at just $2.99, which is super nice, but if you use my code TFC, you get 15% off even on top of the already affordable prices. I could just buy all of my eSIMs from home like a month before I went on the trip, so I didn't have to worry about finding a Wi-Fi spot here when I land at the airport or buying a SIM card for way too much money when I arrive. Modern iPhones and Android devices both support eSIMs, and you just need to download the app with the link in the description to set it up in a few taps. There's also a 30-day money-back guarantee if something doesn't work, so go to saily.com/TFC or use the code TFC to get 50% off. Happy travels, and I'll see you 2 weeks from now. Bye.